And, having a model sharing platform could be kind of like dull. And I think that one of the things about Hugging Face is they brought all of us like a smiling, happy face to the idea of models and how we can interface with these models. And I think that's, I think in tech waves that can be like with containers, Docker did such a good job of humanizing technology. Because at the end of the day, the tech is cool, but if we as humans don't feel good about it, we're not going to have a great experience. So yeah, naturally, I was excited. We have a speaker from Hugging Face, and I would like to introduce you to Dana Orbik-Karova.
Hello, everyone again. So thank you very much for inviting me to Lisbon AI. It's been a pleasure for me to be here yesterday, and I hope you will enjoy your day today. Today I'm going to talk about democratizing AI for robotics with Small VLA. Small VLA is a foundational model built by Hugging Face and LeRobot, where I was one of the leading authors. And I will be speaking about how we build this model, in general, what is VLA? Probably many of you might already have heard about VLAs, but I will still remind you what is it. And I will try to include all necessary links, QR codes to the essential references, so feel free to scan and just look for more information there. So shortly about me, yesterday I tried this AI photo booth and it was a very nice experience, so I advise you to do it today if they will be still there. And so I am currently a Small VLA lead at Hugging Face, and I graduated from a French École Normale Supérieure, Paris-Saclay, and it's essentially like theoretical machine learning master's degree. And then I joined Hugging Face, and since then I'm just passionate about open source robotics and currently building foundational models for robotics. So let's jump in. Firstly, let me introduce you to what is LeRobot. I guess that's the main product people know when they hear about robotics from Hugging Face. This is the platform that provides models, data sets, tools for real-world robotics. And it's built on top of PyTorch, and it's just aimed to lower the barrier to entry robotics, and essentially everyone from any background, no matter whether you have masters or bachelors in robotics, can actually just try and play with this library. And even the hardware that we are trying to provide, trying to give the code to use the hardware with, it's very cheap. So, for example, one set of arms costs you 300 euros, and I think it's quite cheap to start doing something in robotics. So, as I said, we provide policies as well. It's AI models for robotics. Here, on the video, this is the policy of state-of-the-art model in robotics, and the model from which everything has started. It's called ACT, Action Chunking Transformer, and then we also have more than 22,000 data sets stored on the Hugging Face hub under the tag LeRobot. You can see all these data sets. And some of them were published by big companies like NVIDIA and Physical Intelligence and other startups in robotics as well. So, and also we provide tools to deal with this data set. As you can see, this tool was built with one of our community members, Alex. We use this tool in order to build the data sets, pre-training data for foundational model that I will be talking about later. Why do we even care about robotics and democratizing robotics for everyone? Because today's robots are very narrow specialists. They are a bit hard-coded and they perform repetitive tasks, and real environments are very complex to automate, so you cannot just continue automating tasks because the tasks are different, real world houses, they're all different, and we cannot generalize with one robot that was automated to one particular house and one particular task. So, and also we have very small effort in diverse pre-training. But I think that's changing. Like with every year, you can see many VLAs appearing, and they are almost on par with LLMs right now. Almost second paper that is being released is about VLAs. So, and also we want to explore the power of fine-tuning for VLAs. We can actually outperform some narrow specialists by transferring knowledge across the tasks. So what do we want? We want the robot to follow naturally instructions, task descriptions, let's say, like bring me a cup of tea, for example, and then adapt these robots to different environments. And we also want to, ideally in the future, we want them to learn new tasks just from minimal amount of data. And then we want a highly scalable architecture. And the problems that we have currently is that we have varied robot embodiments. Each robot, each, let's say, ARM or Unitree, for example, or Ricci robots, they all have different configurations, different degrees of freedom, and then, which is like just the number of proprioceptive actions and states, states and actions. And so that's why we have also varying input size. And we also, it's not very scalable because we don't have ImageNet for robotics for now. And then also it's not very generalizable. It's overfitting to specific tasks, environments, and objects. And we struggle with some unseen instances as well. So let me just now start explaining what is small VLA and how to build it. As I said, there is a QR code to the paper or blog post, I don't remember, but you can find all the essential assets by scanning the QR code. And so the input to the foundational model in robotics looks like this. So we have text, vision, states, and actions. Text, as I said, just like the natural language instruction, typically consisting of one task without any hierarchical tasks, compilation of tasks. It's just simple ones, pick up the yellow block, but I think many people right now are trying with more complex tasks involving some subtasks as well. And then video frames containing multiple viewpoints. That's the vision input that we pass to the foundational model. And then states, as I said, they capture robot's current physical configuration, joint positions, and effector pose, and gripper status. And also we have actions. It's just target robot action representing what robot should do next. And depending on the robot type, we have different dimensions for actions. For example, the robot arm that I mentioned in the beginning, which is like very cheap, 300 euros, it has 6-dimensional actions. So in the end, we will predict just 6-dimensional output. This is a typical VLA architecture. I just simplified it massively here. So you can have like images, tasks, and robot states as an input, and then you pass it to some pre-trained VLM. I hope, VLMs are quite also popular. Probably you heard of them. It's just vision language models. And then in the output, you get action decoder. And then you pass the outputs from VLMs to action decoder. And I guess the action decoder is the key component in the vision language action models. Let me just briefly explain how does it work. Please stay with me, it's not too technical as it might seem. So we just predict actions based on the previous observation states, observation frames. It's just previous, the combination of everything, the multiple viewpoints from different cameras on also text and the proprioceptive states. It's all observation vector, and then we predict based on this observation vector the next actions. And then we just use flow matching loss. Basically it was adapted from denoising architectures, and it works for robotics as well. So as you can see, the objective is to model the probability distribution of actions given the particular observation state vector. And so as you can see, I think I just put some more details in the action decoder part. You have cross and self-attention. Normally it consists of self-attention. That's just the typical architecture for vision language action models. Maybe you've heard about physical intelligence, and their first model called Pi0 is based on exactly the same architecture. And now let's come to more specifically to small VLA architecture. We didn't go very far. We just adapted the same architecture. The main modifications, I have shown them on the slide. We just used layer skipping in pre-trained models because they have been proven to be very effective. And we don't use all the layers from the pre-trained VLM models, which in small VLA, we reduce them by half. Every second layer we would skip. And also another key thing is just we replaced we interleaved cross and self-attention, because in Pi0, for example, they used only self-attention. So that also helped a bit. And the key component probably is the data set that we use for pre-training our foundational model. So community data sets, this is the performance of small VLA in real world. I don't know why the last two videos doesn't work, but yeah, it is like during inference in evaluation. So that's how the model performs. The task was to pick up the cube and put it in the box. That's the simplest task. And then we can see that it also generalizes on a slightly different environment. This data set was not present during pre-training and fine-tuning as well. So next block is community data sets, and I guess we are moving to the key part on how to build community-driven foundational models and why do we care. So there is like data islands problem that was described by NVIDIA in one of their papers. The paper was called GROOT, and they said that mostly robotics data sets, they have a form of data islands. Like since we have many embodiments, many different dimensions for actions, they are all split in the form of archipelago of data islands. So we have like a large island consisting of, for example, the data sets with 6-dimensional actions, and then the other small islands with some very interesting but like particular robots that are not so popular. So this creates problem that we cannot really build a general model that can capture all these robots because each of them has different configurations. And so we need something, a robotics equivalent of ImageNet, the data set that will ideally capture all these robots, as many robots as possible. And then also we need to have architectures that can work on cross-embodiment data. So if you imagine these islands as embodiments, cross-embodiments, I mean like just taking all the islands, regardless of the size, into the foundational model. And shared formats, annotations, and infrastructure, that's what we also need. And also, if you are wondering how to record the data set in robotics, it's a bit different from just data sets in images for image models or language models. We also need to include the feeling of the robots, basically the physical space. So, and I used to provide this example, the favorite example from one of my colleagues, is like, it's equivalent to playing the football. You can watch the game, you can understand the strategy, you can spend endless hours just watching, but we will not really get the full experience by not trying and hitting the ball with your feet and not going to the field. You cannot experience this, so we need to sort of incorporate the physical experience of the robots that they have. And we do that by teleoperation. That's how we collect the data set. It's from my previous talk. I showed how the data set is recorded. So you have the follower arm and the leader arm. The leader arm is the one that I'm holding, and I'm sort of trying to manipulate the arm by just moving the leader arm. But the follower arm just repeats after leader arm. So that's how we collect the data for robotics. And so what kind of efforts we are doing to accelerate the ImageNet of robotics? We simplify the data collection, the tools, and in order to use this leader and follower arms, you need to have a clear tutorials, you need to have configurations, and we all do. We have this in the robot, so you can easily just follow one of the tutorials. It's quite easy to follow and understandable. And then we standardize formats. We make sure that the data sets that are already present, they have a single format, so that you can just use our tools irregardless of where the data is coming from. And we also enable sharing via through the Hugging Face Hub. And and basically motivate community contributions. Anyone can push and collect the data. So there is a nice blog post that we read with community members. You can see Will as well. He was talking yesterday. And so we just made this blog post on when to expect ImageNet, if you're interested. So this is the LeRobot community datasets. I think this is not updated. It was almost half a year ago. Half a year ago, and as you can see, the datasets has grown significantly during 1 year. So that's all the datasets that we used for pre-training small VLA. It was also prepared by Will and Alex, I think, the visuals. So this is the recent breakthroughs in robotics by Hugging Face. We recently organized a LeRobot Worldwide Hackathon where we had, I don't have exact statistics, but we have many contributors and many local instances all around the world. On the map you can see where the hackathon took place. It was a decentralized hackathon. We had online participants and also some offline participants in each city. And like everyone was given a task and they were trying to build using our LeRobot tools. We even identified some winners. I don't remember, I think there was 30 winners. Like we watched each demo video that they sent, and here's some creative videos. I think they, as you can see, they used small VLA and they used also ACT. And for example, in this video, the person is just trying to train the model in order to put corresponding figures based on the color that it's seen in the screen of the phone. So when it's blue, it should put the blue disk and etc. And there is also another one which is very interesting. It's called Le Chef. And they built this pipeline based on ACT. Yeah, so basically the robot assembles a sandwich based on the products, and it's not an automation, it's AI. So they train a model in order to teach the robot to grasp the object and put it on the bread. So yeah, they also provide some details on the architecture here. And this one, I guess, also they trained this model on small VLA. It just shows the precision of actions, just to put screws in the, using screwdriver. So it's actually very impressive because for robotics, and especially when using not so affordable, not so expensive hardware, we do have lots of jitter and unnecessary stuff related to hardware. So it's hard to get the very precise output. And also recently released Richie Mini. It's a cute robot that was developed by Poly Robotics that Hugging Face acquired recently. So it crashed the internet, I guess, I would say. We had many pre-orders. We even had to make a negotiation with Seed Studio in order to produce these robots because they were in such a big amount that we did not expect, and we needed to have manufacturers for this. So yeah, it's just like a personal assistant. You can train models using the hub and then teach your robot to do something like maybe recognize gestures or do some voice assistant from this. I think it has multiple use cases. And also, just to finish my talk, wanted to say that I've been receiving a lot of questions on how to pre-train VLAs and whether they can reproduce small VLA by using the paper and the code at LeRobot. It was a bit hard because it was a bit researchy and we did not really clean it properly so that people were ready to use. But now I'm working on developing a framework for pre-training VLAs so that people just can follow the simple README file on GitHub and just reproduce the training, given that we also provide the data sets. So if you have compute, if you have clusters, and you just don't know from where to start, I think it would be a good point, and it will be called VLab, like standing for VLA Lab. And so we are releasing it soon. Stay tuned, and I hope you will find it useful. Thank you so much.